Welcome to the Kids with Big Emotions podcast, formerly known as Calm Nights, Strong Days. I am your host, Andi Clark, and we are getting back. Last week, we had a little bit of a break in our series because of Halloween. We are back in our fourth of fifth mistake that I've made with my kids, with myself, and that many of the parents that I work with have made with their kids. And my hope with all of these mistakes is not so that you look bad at yourself or feel bad for doing them. I mean, shoot, we've all done them. It's more about learning from them and being able to see, okay, now I know what direction to go. So hopefully I'm giving you enough information in them to be able to help to switch your direction and to be going in avenues that are going to support your kid with big emotions more. So today's episode is the invisible stress that could be behind your child's big emotions. Now, you may not have a child like this with a lot of sensitivities, or you may. If you don't, or you're not aware of any of your child's sensitivities, I would still highly encourage you to listen, because I know with one of my kids, it's very apparent that he has sensitivities. And the other one, through some of the tools that we've used or some of the things that I've learned, I've realized that he actually does when I wasn't aware of it in the beginning. So when we're starting to look at solutions, last the 2 episodes ago, the one that I did, the third mistake, was really diving into executive functioning and really diving into how we could be empowered as parents to learn a lot about executive functioning, our child's executive functioning system, in order to be able to support them the best and to really advocate and have that power and ability for those who we're hiring to support our kids to really be able to step in their power. I'm sorry, to really be able to step into their power as well. And what we're going to be diving into now is a stressor that before executive functioning was a big piece of the puzzle on my son's moods, behaviors, energy, how his whole entire stress system functioned. And I thought when I went through that, I'm like, oh, this is such a big piece. This is it. No. And then I got the executive functioning that I got from last week. So that I went over 2 weeks ago. So this one here, if you haven't dove into a lot of the environmental stressors, different stressors for your kid, then this is going to be a huge episode for you. So as I've said, there's a lot of stressors. So think of like a picture, a phone that's running like a dozen apps at once, and it overheats. It's running so many apps, it's overheating, it slows down, and then it sometimes crashes. Kind of like laptops, right? When your laptop's getting to the point where it just can't handle as much, we haven't cleaned it, or whatever all the terminology is, and I don't even know how to do on my computer. So all of the things to make sure that it's running at its optimal level, all of these apps keep going on it, or we keep downloading all kinds of files and downloading pictures and downloading all of these things. And it just gets so bogged down. It overheats, it slows down. That is what happens to your child when they are bombarded with environmental stressors. So environmental stressors could be, and this is not, your child may have one or more of these. My kid has most. So loud noises, synthetic fragrances, overstimulation from screens. They can have, there's the loud noises, but it can also be visually lots. There's a video that Mark Rober did on his son. His son's autistic. Mark Rober is an engineer that, if you have kids that are kind of into any science, just Google Mark Rober, and his videos on YouTube will pop up. It's amazing. And so Mark Rober did one where it's his kid in a park, and a playground. Kids are playing. And he says, most of the time, most of us just hear this. And he just had the camera on, and you were able to hear a little bit of sound in the park, nothing at all. He goes, but this is what my son hears. He hears that ice cream truck down the road. He hears that kid having a tantrum beside his mom. He hears the kid that fell and is screaming and crying. He hears, those kids over there screaming and having fun. He hears the cars. He hears the cheering of the baseball game happening by, all of this stuff. And he, like, every time that he's adding a new sound, it's just sounds layering on top of other sounds. And that can be with our kids. I know. So can be an attention piece as well with executive functioning, where their attention, their ability first on to take in so much information is just overwhelming. And their attention gets so focused on all these things, and they can't divert their attention. So they get hyper focused, hyper attention on all of these sounds, all of these noises around them, and they can't block them out. So that can be definitely one of them. Loud noises. My son as well, just visually, like both of them. When we would go places, my one son, I would always, my quiet one, the one that's a turtle, the one that's like that invisible minority that you don't really think there's things bothering him. He would, whenever we'd go somewhere new, if he could just sit in a corner and read a book for a little bit, he would eventually start looking up from the book a little and start visually taking in more and more of the room, more and more of the people, more and more of the things, because he takes in so much at such an incredible rate. It was overwhelming for him. And once he had taken it all in and enough that it wasn't overwhelming for him, then he would go in and join it. So you'll find these things with these different stressors. Synthetic fragrances is a big one. I'm going to dive into that one. Overstimulation from screens. And you'll find some kids can get off screens easy. Kids who are having executive functioning struggles, if they have inhibition, if they have attention struggles, they have, those are the two top ones actually for getting off of screens. Then it becomes like a struggle. And I know my one son, when he was younger, and even TV, just TV or being on a device, he'd almost like spiral while he was on it. As soon as you get off, like the meltdowns were unbelievable. So these are all environmental stressors. And even a small trigger, it can really cause big emotional meltdowns. And we can miss these environmental factors when we're piling on extra stress, like as to how much they're piling on. We don't realize, oh, we've just downloaded more onto our laptop, or another app has come in, and all of a sudden the memory's just getting full and full and full. And that's what happens to our kids. And they can only handle so much, which I recall my son in junior kindergarten, he started wearing 3 pants, 3 pairs of shirts. I'm like, this is interesting. And it was after Halloween. We had, it was just a regular 15-minute parent teacher interviews. And that's when the teacher told us that he'd been having a really hard time and he'd been struggling and more outbursts. And I was thinking to these clothes, and I said, oh, have you changed any cleaners? Any scents? She goes, oh, yes. We have this new, really great pine scented floor cleaner and hands and sand, like disinfectant. And I'm like, oh. And I knew instantly that that's what was affecting him. And he knew so much, because in junior kindergarten too, or it was SK, they have a lot of carpet time where they're sitting on the carpet, sitting on the floor. And he was protecting himself with having the extra layers of clothes being on that as well. And it definitely affects his behavior for sure. I kind of relate it to being like a bomb sniffing dog. So you have these dogs with these special abilities to sniff bombs, to sniff if somebody's having an epileptic seizure, to sniff out drugs, to sniff out like all kinds of things. And the thing is that when we're training these dogs to smell these things and the dog smells it, we don't. But we believe that the dog has smelt it. Unfortunately, when those of us who are very sensitive to synthetic fragrances smell things and we say, oh, that smell, there'll be people who are like, oh my gosh, this is so great, like fabric softeners and, oh my goodness, all of anything that has extra smells in them, the body cares, the lotions, all of these things. And they can really, really, really affect us And I know, so Febreze, my husband knows, my one son and I are like crazy sensitive to it. Like, okay, I'm going to tell you two stories. First one, I'll tell you our Palmolive story. So we had switched to non-fragrance, environmentally friendly, like non-toxin dish soap, and we ran out of it. My husband had had a little bottle of Palmolive that he loves to do cookouts and stuff at work, and he uses that at work. He's not sensitive to smells. I put a drop of the Palmolive in the water, and almost instantly, my nose started running. I felt this tightness in the back of my head, all the way down my shoulders, and the top of my neck just started seizing. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this was the pain, or has been the pain, that I've had for years and years and years. I was going to chiro, massage, physiotherapy. Nobody could figure out how to get that pain out of my shoulders, that ache out. And my husband and I were in the middle of a really nice random conversation. Instantly, I got mad at him. Like, I used to call her Medusa. Instantly, she came out and started yelling at him. And I knew it was a Palmolive. I drained the sink right away. I got some from others of the house. I got some other hand soap that we had all in the house, got it off my hands, got it out, got out my tools. I was using essential oils and different things just to get different scents and smells in me that I knew I was okay with, that would bring down, support my stress system and bring me out of it. And in about 15, 20 minutes, I was back to being a normal human being. This is how synthetic fragrances can hit some of us. So I'm like a bomb sniffing dog when it comes to synthetic fragrances. And so is my one son. We get instantly angry. So Febreze, so my husband knows about all this. This is like a year later after Palmolive, the Palmolive story. And we'd all come in the house. So our house, coming in the front door, our stairs to the back, you have to walk all along our main floor and into our kitchen and go down the stairs in the kitchen to get to our basement. So it's the other end of the house would be, the entrance from our basement, like where air can get through onto our main floor. And my son and I walked into the house, and instantly both of us, what's that smell? And my youngest instantly just started yelling at his brother, hitting his brother, like instant rage. I'm sitting there yelling at my son. I'm like, what does that smell? Gotta get it. Like instant Medusa. Like I could not stay calm. I'm like, what is that smell in here? Gotta get that out of here. We gotta find out. And he instantly knew. He ran down to the basement. He had Febrezed his hockey equipment, and he had put it into a black garbage bag, tied it up really tight, but we could still smell it. So he had to put it outside in our backyard in order to get it out. And we couldn't go in the backyard. And it took us a while to get the smell out of the house for my other son and I to actually calm down. So there are definitely kids. This is not isolated to my son and I. I know of other people. I have a client too that they switched out their kids' toothpaste. And he's like, oh my gosh, getting them to bed is so much easier now. They could not believe the difference because of the flavors, the smells, the toxins that were in it that the kids were ingesting. He has 4 little girls. And could not believe the difference in how they were feeling because they were ingesting this. It was going through like their pores, like it seeps in, even though you spit it out, still some of it seeps in. I could not believe the difference. And so this is where synthetic fragrance was for us. It is definitely not going to hit everyone the same. It's definitely not. That being said, like, it's very interesting if you're going grocery shopping with your child, and as you get closer to the soap aisle, if they start getting angry or more anxiety, or just totally changing their behavior, start getting mad about something, I would really wonder if it is the synthetic fragrances that are bothering them. I can't go on the aisles beside soap aisles usually. Well, I couldn't. My stress system is a lot stronger now, and so is my son's, and we can, but it still does tire us out. So it's very fascinating. And my other son, who isn't affected to that degree at all, he notices it. He notices now because our house is scent free and toxic free. from like chemicals and cleaners and all of that, that he really does notice it when we are out and about and around people. And a couple of weeks ago, my in-laws came into the car, and my mother-in-law knows, she just forgot. She felt so bad. She had just put lotion on her hand that had a very strong scent to it before she got into the car. And my husband, I was in the front, we're like blasting the air, and that's so that the air would go behind me and wasn't coming up. We had the sunroof open. Thankfully, it was a warm day. I had my window open a little bit so that it was not getting into me, because I instantly felt it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it through this event that we were all getting to, this family event. It was a baby shower. It was awesome. And in the past, I would have really crashed from that. I would have crashed and not been able to recover. But since I have really worked hard to get my stress system back on track, get it stronger, I'm able to handle those a lot more. So I actually ended up staying a human. Medusa didn't rear her head, and I had a really good time. I would not have in the past. I would have been so wiped, no energy, wouldn't have been able to have a conversation with anybody. And I would have been very grumpy and moody. So this can definitely be a factor with your kids. It drains the energy. My son, that is not noticeable of it, he notices that his energy does change when he's in somebody's house who does have a lot of cleaning products and scents and smells in their house. So it's one of these things, if we go back to this bomb sniffing dog, that just because it may not affect you, or I'm also going to lay this out here, just because you're always around it, that you don't know what good feels like, it doesn't mean it's not affecting you or your child. So when we're like really ignoring these stressors, screens is a hard one. My kids homeschool. I've done episodes on this in the past where I've talked about screens and talked about strategies that I use with my kids for screens in order to help them as best as possible to manage themselves. When my son, though, is having a struggle day, he actually knows now he doesn't even turn on his screen, which means he doesn't do his schoolwork. But I know that he's working then on his stress system, because he knows what his body needs at that point in time. Because the stimulation of screens can really, really trigger him at times as well. And he's aware of it. He's 11 years old now. It's something that we've worked on for years, and getting him to notice, perceive how he feels after getting off of screens, perceive how hard it is to get off screens, how his inhibition to not be able to get off, how his moods, his emotional irregulation. So yeah, emotional regulation was just a struggle, like a huge struggle. So it's very fascinating when you dive into this with your kids and you do start working on this. You have to understand, I've been working on this for years, and we still have a ways to go, and we still make mistakes, and I still am grumpy some days. So it's not about being perfect, but it's about implementing one thing at a time. So if you are trying certain strategies and they're not working for you, then something that I would suggest that you start looking into is the environmental stressors. So specifically, I mean, you probably already know if there's a sound or a visual or a sound component for your child. You probably already know if there's a screen component. I would highly start getting you to look at synthetic fragrances. There's an amazing documentary out there called Stink. It used to be on Netflix, not sure if it is anymore. I will link to it in the show notes. So definitely check into it. Stink is a phenomenal, it really goes into synthetic fragrances, what they're all in, why they, why they're toxic to us as well, and why they are allowed in our products. So it's pretty much most of our cleaning products, body care products. And it took me years as well, doing a course, learning from one of my actual good friends now, who she doesn't teach anymore, but she used to teach people how to switch over all of their body care products. But it is, get a toothpaste. Once your toothpaste is done, you replace it with either Green Beaver or Dr. Bronner's are the two brands that are the most popular for toothpaste. They're the good ones. And switch to those, right? That's just one thing you can start doing. It's not hard. For laundry soap, you can get it from Costco, Nellie's laundry and dish soap, dishwasher soap. They're this huge tub. The tub lasts us like, oh my gosh. I don't know how long the laundry tub's gonna last us. The dishwasher one, the one for the dishwasher. I'm gonna say it's this huge pail. It's a couple of years worth at least that we got, and it works amazing in the dishwasher, and it's non-toxic. It does not have a scent or a smell and toxins in it. It's called Nellie's. So we use Nellie's laundry soap. We use vinegar for our fabric softener, and we use wool dryer balls in the dryer instead of any of the what are those sheets, dryer sheets. We don't use those. And doing that alone is a huge help. We use Benefect. It's a commercial grade disinfectant cleaner with a time base. So it's the base in it is time, completely antiviral. Like it's what a lot of companies do use. My husband's in the police, and his police service actually uses it. So it's cleared by a lot of companies, and we order it Benefect. You can get it off of Amazon, and that's what we use for our all-purpose cleaner in our house. And so those are things that you can do. Just switch those things out, and you might already notice a big difference in your kid. Because if they are just with the fabric softeners and the soap and the dryer sheets, that's on their clothes 24/7. That if they stop sleeping in a bed with the sheets that have it on, if they stop, what's it called? If they stop wearing the clothes that has that on, you might start noticing a difference just from that. And the more that we got out of our house, the more that we can handle outside of our house of the toxins, because you're not going to be able to get rid of them all. Some people love those scents. I know for myself as well, I used to always struggle going to shopping malls, and I never understood it. And then we'd go to the States where they have these open malls, and I'd be like, how come I'm okay in these open malls? And I realized it's because all the scents would just accumulate, especially if there was a Body Shop or a Bed Bath and Body Works or any of those, like really Sephora, those with a lot of the smells, or going by a department store where they have all their perfumes, that would all seep into like the whole hallways and everything. And when I'd go to the outdoor strip malls, I would always get fresh air in between going into each store. And if a store had a strong smell, I would just leave it. So it was just fascinating seeing the difference of why I struggle to go into shopping malls here, and why I've never liked shopping. I was always exhausted and had zero energy to do anything for the rest of the day, anytime that I went shopping. And all of this affects your stress system. And if we're going back to executive functioning, like we've been talking about, the more stressed your body is, the more that manager of your brain that is conducting all of your executive functions struggles to coordinate everything. So this is where as well, you may have a child that can work with the tutor, can do what the tutor is asking them on reading or something in the morning. But if they were to do it after school, the tutor would not be able to make any progress. And this is what they talk of in our executive functioning program, and the program that I'm in, where they talk about when they have to have different plans based on how the kid comes on a certain day. Because when you're working on executive functioning, if that child has tons of energy, their stress system is all in check, they're good, then that child can do a lot more than when they've been struggling. So after Halloween, after a time change, all of these things, right? If they've had a party, or they've had a lot of activities going, or for high school, if they've just done exams, they're not going to be able to manage and function as well as they can when their battery's going really well. So when you can take out these environmental stressors, take out the environmental toxins, the synthetic fragrances, it already takes such a big stress off of them that you might start noticing a difference, and they might be able to do things a little bit better. Maybe not successfully. They might need to learn the skills and the steps, but it may be able to improve the way that that conductor can orchestrate that orchestra, that that manager can lead their team on what they should be doing. So, yeah, I mean, you really can't control everything. And this isn't the be all solution of anything. It is a big piece, right? We cannot eliminate every stressor, and you don't have to. Small changes, toothpaste, soap. We go to the health food store and get emu oil soap. It's great for dry. We started emu oil soap because my son had crazy eczema when he was a baby. And emu oil is really good for nourishing the skin, and it's non-toxic. So we go to our health food store. I know the Bulk Barn here has it. A lot of health food stores just sell bars of soap. We get the emu oil with nothing else in it. And that's the soap that we always use. You can get a lot of different non-toxic soaps, but switching out your soaps, shampoo, we use Green Beaver shampoo, switching those things out just one at a time. When something is finished, then you just you change the brand. And the cost is not that much difference. Sometimes it's the same. Especially with our dish soap and our laundry soap from Costco, the Nellie's brand, like it doesn't cost us any different to make that change. And vinegar is cheaper than fabric softener. And laundry balls, you buy 3 balls for $20 or something, and you're set for years and years and years. I think I've had mine for 5 years now, and they're still going strong. So it's cheaper in the end for some of those things as well, and so easy to implement. Once you're finished, replace it with the non-toxic option. So yeah, hopefully this has really helped you see, like, when you're looking at different stressors, these are the invisible stressors that a lot of people miss. It's a big mistake I see so many people miss out on. And I don't have this yet in the circle, in the support circle that I have, where I'm teaching all of this, where I'm teaching executive functioning. Though, if you come into the sports circle and you have any questions on environmental toxins, ask me. It's been my life we've been doing it for over 12 years now, really making sure that we are changing out all of our products and like switching them to non-toxic. So ask me any questions. If you're in our support circle, come on in and hop on any of my weekly calls and ask, and I will answer them. I will be working on getting modules for that as well, and lessons for that for everybody to go through. The group is a newer group. They'll be adding all of this information, all the stuff that I used to teach with my first responders was all this. I taught environmental stressors and nutritional stress and sleep and all the stuff to do with your stress systems, and then all of the executive functioning. I'm building out lessons for all of these that you can go through as a parent in order to learn how to be able to, first off, understand a lot of the stressors that are affecting your kid, or maybe affecting your kid. You figure out which ones are and are not. And then frameworks or strategies in order to start decreasing those stressors or give your child the support that they need as a parent, or because you do still always need to be doing stuff at home with them, and giving you that knowledge and the understanding on how to explain it to all those other people that your child is learning from for sports and athletics and music and arts and therapies, and from your doctors and teachers and everything. You can use all of this as very, very helpful tools. I know this synthetic fragrance was a huge one that I told. So in kindergarten, they were all supposed to line up and use the soap. And the soap that they have at the school instantly would just get my son in a anger rage. So I brought in another soap that I think the teacher used with all the kids, and noticed a difference in the temperament of some other kids in the class as well. And they're not supposed to, because there are it can only be brands that the school board has approved that they're allowed to use. And this wasn't on one of the approved brands, even though I know that there are other schools that it is on theirs. It just hadn't been approved by our school board. So the one teacher knew that, so she used it in her class and just didn't tell anybody. And she did notice a difference in the behavior. So you'll get some teachers like that that may as well, or you can say, this is the soap that my child needs to use when they are in this class, because our kindergarten and junior kindergarten classes have bathrooms in their class. So he was able to have his own soap in those classes. All right, that was a lot. Hopefully it's helped you see that about another stressor, that invisible stressor that could really be affecting your kid, that many, many, many people miss. It'd be very interesting to let me know if you notice more calmness, less reactivity, and a greater emotional balance in your kids. Definitely go to the show notes and check out the support circle if you are looking for more support. That is where there are other parents like you in our membership site. And yeah, I'm super excited. We're going to really make changes in there, and I'm going to help support you in that group so that you are able to give a tailored approach to your child based on the stress symptoms that they're exhibiting, the executive functioning that they're exhibiting, and everything in between. All right. I look forward to, I'm not seeing you, you're through a screen. I hope that you look forward to the next episode where we will be diving into the last mistake that I do see that people make when they are helping their neurodiverse child. I know I did this for a while, and I'm so glad that I started learning this other viewpoint and way of doing things, because it's really made a difference with my kid and with all the kids that I work with. So excited to share that with you, and I'll see you in the next episode.